to see us try to get there in a way or another. For example, like one of the stories that we're writing currently is family separation. Could you imagine being separated from the people you love? So that's those sorts of questions that we ask are stuff that pushes the questions that, so the stories that we write for the episodes. But then when you hand it to somebody like Adrian or Anthony, where that they sound design, that becomes even much more overwhelming. If you hear, say, a subject or an interview talk about how they lost their mother, then you pair it with some deep music and some sound design, it hits different. Mm-hmm. So I guess the parallel for that is when you're doing it I heard Guillermo del Toro say this in filmmaking, when you're in a script, you say somebody's walking into the scene and feels impacted. You have to answer that question with the camera, with sound, or with something else. I can't remember what, but it's a great quote. But sorry, I just botched it. But that's the whole point, is that some of the cues that we have in sound can be basically land harder if we kind of pair it up next to some sound design. So Adrian and Anthony, why don't you guys talk about a little bit of that?
Sure, yeah. So kind of bouncing off what Julio said, to reiterate, my name's Adrian. I do sound design for Port of Entry, where we kind of do cross-border podcasts, like stories about Tijuana and the Baja California region, and San Diego, and how they kind of correlate or don't correlate, and just arts and culture, all these things. To kind of answer his question about podcasting, like, you kind of want to be the eyes of the listener, you know, like as Chris Cantori kind of hones in on like video, it's something that's really important, but it's something we want to focus on, like how can we get our story across through just audio, right? So you want it to be very like textually rich, using different things like sound effects or clips or different interviews, things like that, or like field noise when you go out and report. Those are all the kind of elements that kind of help create a more like, again, textually rich podcast to kind of engage your listener and kind of keep the story flowing. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're doing, right?
Or
like,
silence, right? Silence.
Yeah, exactly. When or when not to use those things. So like, you know, using an important piece of music, when not to use it, those are all things that to keep in mind when you're kind of creating your podcast.
All right. So how is the sausage made? All right. So we are pretty much have a list of the main elements that we identify and how to put an episode together. So first of all is to have your idea concept kind of already figured out, what you're trying to do, what you want to write about. This sort of podcasting goes hand in hand with English majors. So if you're a writer, you can find very fertile ground into podcasting. I think we've all majored in writing in some one way or another. I'm a philosophy major. Anthony, also a philosophy major, journalism major, right, Julia? Literature, there you go. I like music. Here's a guy, and music. There you go. So yeah, so there you go. So there's arts and culture. Arts and culture, but yeah. So writing for that, you're trying to find a concept or an idea of what you want to write about, something that speaks to you. Again, a podcast for everybody is a podcast for nobody. So try to find that niche of what speaks to you and just write about it. Do something, and then find somebody like Adrian if you can't sound design, or find somebody like Anthony who does sound scoring as well, and then work together with that. Anyway, so once you figure out what you're going to write about, do a little bit of research, contact the sources, who is the best person to talk to you about this, pre-interview them with the 6 W's. Pretty much you already heard the 6 W's, right? Basic journalism. Who, what, where, and why. That's 5. What am I missing? And how. And how. That's an H. Right. So So when you figure it out, kind of ride around that basically outline, or the bare bones. Then when you figure that out and you figure out who your source is going to be, kind of develop the questions. So if you know you're going to write about family separation, what is one of the questions you want to ask somebody? Anybody take a guess?
Have you been separated from your family?
Huh?
Have you been separated from your family?
I mean, that's evident. But what's one of the questions you want to ask that person?
How did it make you feel?
Exactly. How does it make you feel? Because then everything locks in and you start hearing the emotional truths they bear in front of you. So those types of questions that kind of bring out from the source what impacted them, then somebody who will listen can connect to that. Because if somebody separated from your mother when you were 15 years old, you would immediately feel that, because I don't know if you ever got lost when you were a kid. I did. It felt horrible. I got lost at SeaWorld a couple times. Do not recommend it. So yeah, so I experienced it for like 30 minutes. Imagine feeling that for over 6 months, 7 months. Imagine having your mother not being there in your graduation, or missing the birth of your child. So stuff like that creates and these sorts of key questions help you bring out that sort of truth. Once you have that sort of all your sources figured out, and you have your recorded interviews, then you start writing the script. Write the script, and you edit, and edit, and edit, and edit, and then keep editing up some more. Always, I recommend, and I'm sure Julia and Anthony can speak to this as well, you need to bounce it up, people. When you write something, you want to hear how it sounds, and we have blind spots as writers. So working with somebody else who can read it for you. We're in the tracking booth, and Alan tells me, "What the hell does this mean? What do you mean here? Can we correct this?" And you have to go back in the moment, just think about it, and rewrite something if something isn't just quite working. So, Julia, Anthony, would you like to say something about script writing?
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing that's kind of in between 2 and 3 there for me, and it's like thinking about scenes, especially when you are literally inside people's ears. Like, there's such an intimacy to podcasting, right? And if you can get people in the room in the story, whether it's like in the room in the interview, this is that authenticity thing.
We had AB 91, which is a very significant bill, which actually there's a chapter here of AB 91, and so how some of the students across the border have benefited from that bill. Then we have the really fun episode of Emilio Montiel, Emilio Productions, who's a filmmaker who kind of is defining sort of, what's it called, Hollywood standards by creating his own home videos, and we actually got to be part of one of the movies, and so check it out. Also, our latest episodes, some before that were like, we had an interview conversation with Gustavo Solis, who's a border reporter. Before that, we had 2 more environmentally focused episodes that talked about cross-border pollution, and the other one featured Alan's brother, who's actually an inventor. And if you can see, they kind of look a little. So what's new with Port of Entry? So we feature some video components. Again, so trying to be flexible and combine different mediums so that we can capture more audience and do a little bit of things for everybody, but kind of keep that real. We're hoping to kind of play these, but obviously there's no internet, and we're pressed for time. So these are some of the other shorts, little short documentaries, short interviews or whatever. So yeah, it's another one. So if you want to follow us on IG, got your phone. You got 10 seconds. One of our colleagues who also have a podcast, a live taping of a book festival, August 22nd, and then we're putting together a taco tour video with Anthony and Julia, who are egging me for the past year to put this together. So that's gonna be a little video component.
Oh, is that a future episode?
Huh?
Is that future episodes?
Sorry. So these are coming up. Yes, thank you. Future episodes. So the next episode is going to be Graduation Without Borders, then World Cup Mania because of World Cup, and then Dungeons and Dragons across the border. Comics. That's it. Let me hand it off to Julia and Anthony.
Do you want me to press the buttons, or you
Yes.
just keep pressing buttons?
Press the buttons.
What is it? You just press.
Just press the mouse.
Here's what we look like. And this is our amazing editor, Chrissy Wynn, also editor of Port of Entry now as well. Chrissy's role is really important. She is with us working through story ideas from the beginning. What could this look like? What could it mean? Whose story is this? What are some characters? And then every step of the way. From script edits, ear edits, and then finals. We just launched just over a year ago. We're in our 2nd season now. The Finest is arts and culture based. It's a podcast from KBBS, obviously. And our tagline is that we're a podcast about the people, art, and movements redefining culture in San Diego.
I'll say for this, the tagline thing, if anyone's like wants to start their own podcast ever, this is like a thing. I've started a number of podcasts in my career, and I came upon this exercise like early when I was learning about this stuff, where you should come up with a 10-word description of your podcast. I think this might be more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A little bit more than 10.
This was, I mean, we started definitely
Yeah.
with a tagline, and then this evolved in like a marketing way after we had gotten started. But
Yeah,
it was
we-
very close to this.
Yeah, we established this. You hear it in every episode, and it stayed. You know, it stayed the same. And the important thing about that is not just is determining what your podcast will be about, and keeping that in your mind. So,
Word, like thesis statement for what our podcast would be. But we also thought about who we would be making this for. Like, who did we want to reach? How did we want an audience to grow? And we came up with personas for like maybe 5 different types.
they're
of
pretty
people.
detailed. We came up with like fictional people.
Yes, we named them. We gave them children. Some of them. I think one person had children, right?
A couple. Yeah.
Another person was into vinyl. Vincent.
I think his name was.
Right. He's basically. I don't remember this. But this is basically what we do when we approach an interview, when we approach building out a script, and like what elements of that interview are coming in. What else we need in an episode? Like, do we need to get bigger context? Do we need to get voices from people that are just regular San Diegans who are just walking around, like get their input, the person on the street impact. So yeah, we want to tell great stories. We want to make you feel connected, and to just like be interested and invested in San Diego. Right? A lot of records, a lot of cassettes, and like notebooks filled with playlists that he had made. And it's just like this interesting story that started out being about like records, and it ended up being about this person, this history, like the impact of Lou Curtis on the folk scene, on this guy, Brendan, who runs the store now, and also like why people are drawn to physical media now, why young people are drawn to physical media now, what it means to have a collection. So we were able to like go from this record shop in City Heights, this guy with this extremely local history, and like go really big.
We talked about like the history of records and like how vinyl like very nearly died in the 90s, and there was like only like literally like 3 plants in the US that still made vinyl, and then there was this crazy resurgence that probably we all remember, and there's like literally weren't
Years
enough.
ago when she was a kid, I forgot how old she was, 11, 12,
Yeah.
something like that,
10,
10. Oh yeah, we have to fact check that part.
Yeah. Her
And
birthday
then-
was like while she was in it. So, yeah.
She was also on
American Idol.
American Idol. And she's from National City. And so this is a local story. And then like very recently she returned to America's Got Talent and won. So this was a really fun episode to work on. Talk to the people who like knew her then. We had a story where we went to a home kitchen. It's actually like a micro enterprise where this woman, Ellie, creates chocolate that's inspired by her background in Mexico. She uses recipes that are like more traditional and makes her own chocolate in her home, and it's really good.
And we got into like the whole chocolate industry, which is like really bad.